When you hear World Cup rivalries, India versus Australia doesn't really come top of the list. Because hey, if the five-time champs have beaten the Indians 8-3, it's like a one-way street, right? Wrong. The discerning fans would know this rivalry has witnessed intense action. 2 games won by a margin of 1 run. And some performances that are etched in memory. India and Australia's head-to-head record since the last World Cup sits at a tense 9-all, thanks to the men in yellow winning 3 in a row in India in March, and without these two. Now, Warner, Smith and 3 others who knocked India out in the 2015 semi-final are raring to go. At the Oval, while all eyes may be on Rohit Sharma, who likes feasting on Aussie attacks, or Stephen Smith, who knows India's side all too well, the game changers could just be these two. Stark and Bumrah, both world-class pacers at the top of their game, are the trump cards for their skippers. Chapter 12 of what's become a celebrated rivalry unfolds Sunday, and whatever happens, it will not be short of intensity and drama.
The stage is set, and what a stage it is. The ground that hosted the first ever test match way back in 1880. Now the protagonists today for the game are India and Australia, 2 teams that have been most successful at the World Cup, sharing a total of 7 titles between them. 2 teams that have forged a sort of rivalry in international cricket that everyone has an eye on, and 2 teams that are now considered the title favourites. You're watching ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. Grab hold of that popcorn and your favourite beverage, because the action starts right here on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. I'm Nikhil Naz, alongside me, Michael Hussey, Ajit Agarkar. A warm welcome to Mr. Cricket himself, who joins our coverage now. Ajit, I'll start with you. On most days, we are always talking about, strategies, and this spinner is a mystery spinner. They may not know this batsman, they may not know. I'm just looking at the numbers. These 2 teams play each other so often. I'm guessing if the captains meet at the toss, they must be like, oh, it's not you again that I have to play.
Yeah, in recent time particularly. Yeah. I think, to me, I think they are India's biggest rivals in the last, 8, 10, 15 years maybe. Maybe for Australia, Ashes perhaps just outranks India, but we don't play Pakistan enough as much as we used to. And that rivalry, we've seen some great contests over the years. Australia's usually had the better of India in the World Cup, but seems to have changed over the last couple of World Cups. So yeah, really looking forward to today. I think both teams coming into this game in good form should make for a good game.
Australia has had this turnaround. It started in March right here in India, so they have a lot to thank the Indian team, because if there's one team that really fires them up, it is the Indian team.
Without doubt, and I think that rivalry really has grown over the last few years. It's there's been some controversy along the way as well, but
which has added to it.
It's exactly right, which has added to it. But it's probably here in that one-day series against India where Australia's just slowly started to turn things around. India got off to a great start in that one-day series, and then I got the feeling they just took the foot off the pedal a little bit. But that enabled Australia to get a couple of wins and start building their momentum. And they've certainly built some very good momentum leading into this World Cup, started this World Cup off well. 2 very, very good teams, and I can't wait for this contest tonight.
Interesting, he talks about India taking the foot off the pedal. We heard Virat Kohli right after that series, and he was of the opinion that, they became a bit complacent. That sort of drive that Australia had, the hunger that Australia had, they didn't. But clearly now those things are going to change. With the World Cup, you expect both teams to be having that fire in their belly.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter much to India. I'm sure it would have given Australia a lot of confidence that win to come from behind. I think, again, one-off games in a World Cup, if you play well on the day, you'll get the result going your way. So early in the tournament as well, it's not going to matter qualifying or not qualifying for the semi-final. So guys can play a bit more freely in this game. So slightly less pressure, but obviously there's a lot of pride at stake.
All right, let's take you live now to the Oval Cricket Ground, and joining us there, my colleague Melinda Farrell alongside Murali Kartik, and I'm really interested to see if Murali has got his fashionable glares. I'm guessing Melinda has been giving him competition on that front. Over to you, Melinda.
We are definitely having a bit of a colour off, I feel, here, and I'm loving Murali's tie and his little handkerchief that he doesn't want to call. It's a handkerchief, but it's a beautiful, beautiful day here at the Oval. Thank goodness. It's been not so beautiful in the previous days. These teams know each other so well, obviously. They've played each other so much. But I think what's going to be really exciting for fans is seeing two of the premium fast bowlers out there in Jasprit Bumrah and Mitchell Starc, aren't they?
You have to add Pat Cummins to that as well. The way he bowled in India on those tracks and the way they turned it around after being 2-0 down. It was practically beyond Bogue coming back 2 sets down to win that series. And I think after that they've been phenomenal. Australia, they're looking one of the strongest sides in this competition. The way they came back in the last game after being 79 for 5. I don't think it's an easy game for India at all. I actually feel that marginally Australia are a stronger side today, to be very honest, the way they have played.
Wow. Well, the thing is, they do know each other so well. They can't really surprise each other. So what do you expect to see them try and do, perhaps, to muscle each other out of this game?
I think one thing which Virat said very rightly in the pre-match talks and all that was that Australia have won the big moments really well in that series, and I think that is something which he would want to address. Even in the last game, I personally thought, watching the game in Southampton, that there were certain areas where India looked a little bit rusty, and I think that could be because of the fact that they were sitting, they were cooling their heels and not playing. But knowing Virat, I'm pretty sure that he would like to use the spinners slightly differently against somebody like a Warner and Steve Smith early doors, because once they are vulnerable, you need to get them. I think that is something which has to be done. And also with his own batting lineup, I'm pretty sure that he would want the likes of Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma to strike form early, because you don't want to be giving easy wickets or early wickets to those two early doors. So I think that is something which he would want to address. And again, for me, the one thing which I'm looking for is that every time India-Australia have played, the number 3 has always gotten runs. Steve Smith in 2015, Ricky Ponting in 2003 and 2011. Usman Khawaja, watch out.
Wow, well, it's interesting then you mention Usman Khawaja, because he's one player, along even with David Warner and some of the other batsmen. Australia haven't looked like they've really clicked into stride with their batting. It was a gutsy innings by Steve Smith the other day, but we haven't really seen the others yet. Yep. Usman Khawaja, questions about him facing the short ball. Do you think they might try and perhaps do what the West Indies did to Uzi?
I think that is something which everybody talks about, and every time people have actually sent telegrams that we are going to bounce you out, the opposition has managed to do well. So I'm pretty sure that they would like to keep it as a surprise weapon. Having said that, the kind of deliveries which he got were really tough, were really good ones against West Indies. Look, he's a pretty good player, and I'm pretty sure this is a flat track. I'm not sure how quick it would be. It's always been one of the flattest tracks, one of the highest scoring grounds in England. So just you have to watch out. If it's pretty quick, then possibly somebody like a Bumrah who's quick on any wicket anyways, he might try and surprise him. Hardik Pandya can, not Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. So do you think that they'll pick Shami just to test Usman Khawaja out? I don't think so. So they have to be wary. It's not just about playing into someone's hands. You have to be smart about what you want to do.
Okay, there you go, guys. It's dead cert. Uzi is on for a ton.
All right, there, Murali Kartik, a superstitious man, believes in those numbers. Says number 3 will score runs. If I was Aaron Finch, I'd bat number 3. I'd send Khawaja then to open. Okay, let's get to what's happening on the social media front. My colleague Anubhav Jain joins us. What's happening on Twitter and the likes?
Thank you so much, Nikhil. It's India versus Australia, 2 heavyweights of the cricketing world. So it's only fitting that we've got the heaviest of bits from the world of social media for you. Up first, we've got Aaron Finch, who believes that Ricky Ponting's played a pivotal role in Australia's recent resurgence. Here's Aaron commenting on the impact that Ricky's had on the team. And he says, everyone wants to impress punter. It's like 8-year-old girls around Justin Bieber when punter's around in the changing room. It's embarrassing, but it's great. Moving on to fellow Australian and a very own Michael Hussey, who was asked by the press as to whether he'd be willing to reveal MS Dhoni's secrets to the Australian team. And Michael Hussey, given the nobleman that he is, responded by saying, no chance, and anywhere there aren't too many weaknesses in MS Dhoni's game. Michael, would love to get a comment from you on this very noble act of yours.
Well, I guess the amount of analysis that's done these days is that there's no secrets anyway. You know, they'll know all the strengths and weaknesses of an MSD. It doesn't really matter what I say. I'm sure they would have done their homework, like every team does. But the way MSD's been playing, particularly, say, in the IPL in the last couple of years, has just been incredible. And he's a very important member of that Indian team.
Brilliant. Up next, we've got Michael Vaughan, who believes that the following Jays should all play in the Ashes. And he names Joe Root, Johnny Bairstow, Joss Butler, Jofra Archer, James Vince, and Jason Roy. And he says any more Jays that have missed. Michael, you may just want to include this one Jay who goes by the name of Jimmy Anderson, who hasn't done too much, only has 575 test wickets to his name, but they say he's got truckloads of potential. So keep that name in mind. Up next, since we're sticking with Jays, moving on to Japan, who've qualified for the Under-19 Cricket World Cup that's going to be held next year. And they qualified in the most bizarre of circumstances. They were scheduled to play PNG in their final qualifying game, but PNG had to forfeit the game because 11 out of their 14 squad players were suspended by Cricket PNG for disciplinary reasons. We've got another J up next in Jimmy Neesham, whom I referred to as the gift that keeps on giving yesterday. And here's Jimmy responding to becoming a part of this elite list of New Zealanders who've taken 5 fours in World Cup history. And Jimmy says he feels that one of these is actually very different from the others on this list. Now, I'm not exactly sure as to what Jimmy is referring to here. I have a few guesses in mind, but I'm going to turn to my panel to ask them what they think Jimmy might be alluding to when he says one of these is very different from the others here. We've got Richard Hadley, Shane Bond, Tim Southey, Trent Boult, and a very own Jimmy Neesham here.
I think he's known to always have a crack at himself on social media. So it's obviously some great names there, great New Zealand bowlers. I'm sure he'll join that list at some stage. He's on the right way at the moment.
Exactly. That's exactly what I had in mind. And the other one was Sir Richard Hadley, of course, is knighted, whereas the others aren't knighted as yet. Brilliant. And we're going to conclude proceedings with Kevin Pietersen, who, of course, is extremely excited for today's encounter. He's going to be at the stadium and is expecting Virat Kohli to score a big 100. So, Virat, it's not just 1.4 billion Indians who are expecting a century from you. It's 1.4 billion plus Kevin Pietersen. No pressure, champ.
Right. Thanks so much for that, Anubhav. I thought he's a perennial funny man on Twitter. Jimmy Neesham may come up with a funny tweet, but I think he leaves that for the rest of the players, not really himself. We're just now turning our attention to the pitch report now from the Oval. Let's quickly go and find out how the surface is going to play out. All right, but for our viewers on the digital platform, they're right here, and we'll continue our discussion with Michael Hussey and Ajit Agarkar. I mean, even before we get to hear the pitch report, you're expecting plenty of runs here at the Oval. I'm just looking at the previous games that have been played here.
Yeah, usually it's true bounce, fast outfield. I think the square goes on forever. That's why every time you hit square of the wicket, the ball races off. But generally, there's been true bounce. And we've seen a game where Bangladesh scored 330 against South Africa, and South Africa were on track to chase that. So you expect runs here, and I don't think it'll be any different. Plus the weather looks really good at the moment.
The other thing we've usually seen at the ground is you're better off chasing and you end up winning games. But it's the World Cup. Do things really turn around? I've seen, 3 games already being played here. 2 have been won by teams batting first.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, isn't it? It's a hard ground to defend because, as Ajit said, the outfield's so fast and it's generally a true batting pitch. I think the key is going to be the start of both of the innings. Both teams, if they can pick up early wickets and put the opposition on the back foot, will go a long way in helping them win the match. But if a team can just get off to a good solid start against that new ball, set a nice platform, then the score could be massive after that because there's some big hitters to come from both sides. And so I think early wickets teams will really, or both teams will push hard for those early wickets. It's going to be crucial.
The other thing that one notices with the Oval, probably a ground where you may need to run 3s. We even saw 4 being run the other day. Not in this ground though.
Yeah, but I think the outfield's got a lot faster now. I don't think that necessarily might be the case. I mean, it's still one of the bigger grounds. No, I think guys hit the ball too hard now. I don't think that they actually place it in the gaps. They try either whack it for 4 or whack it over the fence. So there might be an opportunity to run at least early doors when the field's in, but it's a very quick outfield.
All right, what we're getting to hear right now from the Oval is that there was the pitch report by Sanjay Manjrekar. And the latest update is that we got Michael Slater and Sanjay Manjrekar. They're giving us the pitch report that you will most likely get a 300 plus sort of a score on this encounter. I even heard another word from Sanjay Manjrekar that he used. Seems a bit tacky. We'll take a short break, but don't go anywhere. Plenty coming up on the other side.
If you weren't a cricketer, what would you be?
I would have been a Formula One race car driver.
One sportsman from another sport you would like to meet.
Kelly Slater, world surfing champion.
The cricketer you grew up idolising?
Dean Jones.
What is the best part of being retired?
Not having to do any cricket warm-ups.
If there was a movie made about you, who would you like to play your part?
I'd like Tom Hardy to play my part.
If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, probably French fries.
One singer or band you'd like to see live?
Metallica.
One superpower you'd like to have?
One superpower. Ooh, well, my son loves Spider-Man, so I'd love to have some cool web shooters and stuff like that.
Who's your 3 a.m. friend?
3 a.m. friend? My wife.
What's the most memorable moment of your cricketing career?
Probably playing a Boxing Day test match on the MCG.
Best cricket ground you've played at?
Ooh, Adelaide Oval.
A cricketing record you wish you had got in your playing days?
I would have liked to have made 500 in a test match.
If you had to pick an emoji to describe you, what would it be?
It'd just be the happy face. In fact, most males can't signify the difference between the emojis, so we keep it simple.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure? Tipping into the ice cream when everyone else has gone to bed.
Want to do something easier? Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions, pick your winners, and track your progress throughout the tournament. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. Game number 14 is what we are building up to at the moment. India versus Australia. Let's take you directly now to our viewers who are watching us from the Caribbean. For the toss, this is Sanjay Manjrekar with both the captains. All right, for those of you who are watching us on our digital platform, ESPN Cricinfo, quick word. Now we'll get to know the playing 11 really soon. But would you like Australia to make any changes for this? Maybe look at another left-arm seamer?
Yeah, I think that's something they would have really considered. Berendorf to come in for perhaps Coulter-Nile. It's a tough call on Coulter-Nile. He was man of the match in the previous game, but it was because he made so many runs. But he's bowling, he hasn't been taking enough wickets. Berendorf has an excellent record against some of the Indian top order, particularly Virat Kohli. So I think that's something they'll discuss. So it'll be interesting to see what team the Aussies go in for. But other than that, I wouldn't make any changes, no.
What would you do if you were Australian captain? You know, are you going to look at Coulter-Nile for his bowling abilities, or you're going to, make some sort of leeway because he brings you some runs with the bat?
Yeah, I mean, that was a match-winning innings. I mean, you would obviously look at his bowling first. Batting's a bonus. I mean, if hopefully Australia don't need his batting again, that means they're in trouble again. So, no, bowling, I'd really be tempted to play Berendorf. If I was the captain, I would go that way. Early on in the tournament, we've seen just the kind of bowler he is as well. I mean, a little bit different to Stark, who goes full fast. He gets this, Berendorf gets a bit of bounce, which might trouble Indians up front. So, yeah, you try and pick the best possible 11 for the opposition that you're playing. It's a hard one though, when someone's played an innings that Coulter-Nile has.
Okay, you think that was hard? I've got another question for you. What does India do? Bhuvneshwar Kumar, does he go out, or you bring in Shami based on the form that he's been showing in the last year or so?
No, I think once you started with Bhuvneshwar Kumar, India's won, he's bowled okay in the first game. Hopefully he'll keep getting better the more he bowls. You don't want to make too many changes. Continuity is, I mean, you see the conditions, they look good conditions. May not get as much swing, which obviously makes him a different bowler. But now that you've started with him, I'm sure they'll not want to change in the second game of this tournament.
And I can assure you, Aaron Finch does not like facing Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. He's got a good record against him, attacking those stumps, swing a few away, swing a few back in. He's very nervous about facing him. So if I was in the Indian camp, I'd be sticking with Bhuvi as well.
All right. And you know, as far as the Indian spinners are concerned, I mean, there were talks that probably look at a Ravindra Jadeja, but then you've got two wrist spinners that have got a great record against Australia. What do you do?
Yeah, I think it'll be a mistake, especially if it's a good pitch. I mean, if there is something in the pitch for spinners, then Jadeja's bowling becomes, then you can perhaps think of picking him ahead of the wrist spinners. But those two have been winning India games in the middle of the overs. I mean, just picking up wickets. There might be an odd game where they might go for runs, which every bowler in one-day cricket does. But they have, in my opinion, they have better chance of picking wickets in that phase than Ravindra Jadeja does. So, and after the game that they've had against South Africa, I can't see Virat Kohli changing.
The only blip those two wrist spinners had was in the recent series against Australia. There were some signs that they're beginning to pick up someone like Kuldeep Yadav, who was troubling them earlier on.
Well, that's probably the only positive from the Australian point of view, is that they've seen this Indian team and these two wrist spinners quite a lot in the last couple of years. And when you initially come up against some mystery sort of spinners, it can be quite difficult to read them, but the more and more you face them, the better you go against them. So they'll be hoping that they can still read them. But I agree with Ajit. They've got to play those two wrist spinners. They're match-winning performers, and they've got to back them in.
Right, okay, so that's the latest toss update then from the Oval, India versus Australia. Virat Kohli has won the toss and decided to bat. I'll just take that question to Ajit. Remember, we were talking about it. All the records on one side and then the World Cup pressure on the other side. He's gone in with the World Cup pressure.
Yeah, I think the runs on board must be a good pitch. I think what he said was it's the used pitch. He's hoping it might slow down or help spinners later on. I don't think it'll change much over 100 overs. So India will have to bat well. But look, we saw in the last game, playing their first game, weren't quite sure what the pitch would do, elected to bowl. If India can put runs on the board, it automatically puts pressure on that Aussie batting lineup. I think they were in trouble against West Indies as well. He's just gone, looking at the pitch, just save, get some runs on board and then try and put pressure that way.
Australia won't be too unhappy with this, because whatever little juice we've seen in the Oval, in the 3 games that we've seen so far, is right at the start then, and after that becomes really flat. So try and probably use the first 10 overs or so for the ball.
Well, they will, and I can assure you they'll come extremely hard at the Indian top order. They'll be desperate to get a couple of early wickets, get Virat Kohli out early, put some pressure on that middle order, because if India can build a platform early, and with the hitting ability of the Indian team to come, Australians will have to chase down a huge score. So I think that first 10 overs is going to be crucial for both teams.
It won't be the worst toss to lose, I think, for Aaron Finch.
Right. We've got the Indian team there. Ajit, have a look. No change for the Indian team, as was being predicted by experts as well. There wasn't really a scope there. Maybe Shami could have come in, but that hasn't happened at the moment. We'll get thoughts from Ajit Agarkar and Michael Hussey on the playing 11. But for the moment, let's cut across live to the Oval Cricket Ground. Melinda Farrell and Murali Kartik alongside. Melinda, I mean, the first question I'd love to ask you, you're outside the Oval Cricket Ground. You've been there for like, half an hour now. Have you seen a single yellow jersey or only blue?
What are you talking about? I've been here for more than 2 hours, thank you very much. Professional here. I have been out there, and no, I haven't seen many yellow jerseys at all. It's very much it's going to be a huge India crowd, as you can imagine. There'll be a few Aussies in there, but I expect that probably around 95% will probably be on India's side, because even the England fans who come here are probably going to be booing some of the Australian players. We have seen a fair bit of that so far. So I don't know if you've seen it as well. Are you getting mobbed as you walk around, Murali?
Yeah, there are too many Indian people everywhere. The tube stations, I couldn't see one yellow jersey. And I thought that possibly you would be in some yellow, you're in pink.
I'm always neutral because I am professional. Were you surprised or not surprised to see both sides unchanged? I mean, why would you change a winning team anyway?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just one game in for India, and I think this is possibly the best team. I know that Ajit wants Shami to be playing, but for me, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar in England, and the way, and also he adds, you have to remember that India doesn't bat beyond a certain point. So somebody like him also adds value on the field as a fielder and also with the bat. And if there is any kind of swing, And I think he's somebody, even in the IPL, the first couple of games later, he was perfectly fine. Possibly didn't get wickets, but he bowled brilliantly. And that's what you want. He's an ideal foil to Jasprit Bumrah at the other end. Yeah, so India, possibly no chance. I'm so happy that they've picked those two wrist spinners. I'll say it again and again. In the middle overs, whether somebody knows them, everybody knows that Kapil Dev was an outswing bowler, but they still got out to the outswing. Everybody knows that Nathan Lyon is an off spinner, but they still get out to the off spin. So that's how cricket goes. So you tend to read, you tend to pick, but still you have to still put bat on ball, and that's where I feel that those two wrist spinners are really good for India every time India needs wickets. And from an Australian point of view, yeah, the temptation to pick Jason Behrendorff could be there, but I don't know, you guys could tell me better. Having seen him in the last series and the first time he came as a commentator, I thought that he had slowed down considerably. And with Nathan Coulter-Nile, again, he's brilliant in the field, he's very athletic, he does bowl well and he bats well. So when you have a player like him and he has gotten runs, why would you drop him?
Why would you indeed? So I just have a little suspicion. I think Australia might tip this one over, and Murali's going to need that hanky to wipe away his tears.
Tell you what, even Murali Kartik had actually given Australia a bit of an edge even when, this game has started. He thinks at the moment the form that Australia are showing, maybe they might just be favourites going into this particular encounter. We'll have to take a short break on the show for the moment, but don't go anywhere. We'll still talk on our digital platform, but for our Caribbean viewers, that's all that we have for you. Thanks so much for joining.
K is for Kapil Dev. Silverware in hand, jacket on his shoulders, and a disarming smile that captivated a generation of Indians that evening at Lord's in 1983. But before he won India their first World Cup, he played arguably the greatest one-day innings of all time, rescuing them from Zimbabwe and making their first ever ODI century. Just a few days prior, Dev had become the first Indian captain to take a 5-for in an ODI. India's greatest all-rounder till date, Kapil Dev paved the way forward for India to become the cricketing giant it is today.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019. That's the Australian playing 11 for the game versus India at the Oval. Michael Hussey and Ajit Agarkar alongside. Michael, I'll come with you. We were talking about Behrendorff making a return to the team. That hasn't happened. I'm guessing the one left-arm pacer they need in Michael Stark, it's enough for them to do the job.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing about Behrendorff, he's very good at the top of the order bowling.
Yeah.
He can swing that new ball, but he's not as good at the death. And so Coulter-Nile, he can bowl with in the early stages with the newer ball, but he's also very good at the death. And so I think it's a right move for Australia at this stage. And plus, it's very difficult to drop a guy who was man of the match in the previous match, albeit for his batting. But he'll feel under pressure because he hasn't got a wicket yet in this World Cup, and he'll be wanting to put in a good performance. Otherwise, he might be in trouble for the next match.
Right, we'll stay with Mitch Stark right now. We were talking about that series in India, no David Warner and no Smith, and yet they did so well. There was no Mitchell Stark as well at that time. I mean, him coming back and in the form that he's come back with that pace really back, it just changes the equation then for India, Australia.
Yeah, I mean, his record speaks for itself. You don't really have to talk much about Mitchell Stark's ability with the white ball. Just the ability to get wickets and at different stages of the innings. I thought Aaron Finch used him beautifully in the previous game. They needed to, because they needed to get some wickets against that West Indies batting, and he's done that. I mean, every time he was brought on, particularly at the end. I don't think 288 was a big total on that ground, but for his performance, and he'll have to produce another one today, I think.
All right, talking about the left-arm fast bowlers versus the Indian openers. Now, that's a contest to really watch out for. We'll have Mitch Stark with the ball very, very soon. The two Indian openers in Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma coming out. Now, if you remember the warm-up games, both the openers were out to left-arm fast bowlers. You had, from Bangladesh, you had Mustafizur picking up the wicket, and then for New Zealand you had Trent Bolt pick the wickets of the two openers. So that's a contest really to watch out for. That's all that we have for you at the moment as far as those watching us at the Caribbean television network, but we'll still continue on ESPN Cricinfo on our digital platform, so stay on for that. All right, we still have some time to talk, and there's plenty to talk as far as India versus Australia is concerned. Let's talk about Khwaja now. You know, he was the star for that series for Australia in the 3-2 victory, but he's not been in form coming into the World Cup, and the two modes of dismissal may not have given him too much of confidence, though, just the way he got out.
Yeah, he's at an interesting stage, I guess, because he's been playing very well in one-day cricket for Australia in the past 6 months or so. But at the top of the order, now they've made the change, they've brought Warner back in at the top, and Khawaja's moved to 3. Now he's a quality player and he can make that adjustment quite well. However, he's also been hit on the head a couple of times while he's been in England, and that does ruffle you up a little bit and maybe just affect the confidence. But he's generally such a level-headed guy, a pretty calm guy. He'll be desperate to get some runs today, though, just to sort of settle the nerves and just to feel comfortable that he's the man to bat for at number 3 for Australia in this World Cup.
He does play spin well as well.
He does, so yeah.
He'll be an important guy for them, especially when the spinners are on, if he is batting at that stage.
We were looking at those numbers, Ajit, not great at number 3, but as things stand right now, that's the position he'd have to bat in.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to bat ahead of Finch. He's the captain, so and David
Unless
Warner
Finch
is one of the
listens
best
to
openers in the world. So.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Unless Finch listens to Murali Kartik, who thinks number 3 is going to get faster.
Yeah, that possibly might work. I wish it worked that way. I think that Virat Kohli might be in for a good day as well.
But generally talking about the Australian middle order, I mean, Steve Smith coming back to form is really, really good. But see, there we have it, his numbers at number 3 and then number 4. So number 3 is where he's done rather well. But that number 4 position now suiting him, and it's the team we're seeing building their innings around Stephen Smith now.
Yeah, he plays a very important role for Australia, I think. Again, he plays spin very well, so that's going to be important today. But also we saw in the last game against the West Indies, when Australia were in trouble, they needed that person with experience, with quality, just to be able to hold the innings together, rotate the strike, run well between the wickets, and then look to accelerate at the right time and have other players play the attacking cricket around him. So he's a crucially important member of that Australian team, and they need him to have a big tournament to go all the way.
Okay, we'll take a look at how the Indian openers have performed against the left-arm pacer, something that we were talking a little earlier in the program, and you could see Virat Kohli's got a good record as he's got against most bowlers there, and then if you take a look at Shikhar Dhawan, out of the 58 innings he averages 38. Really not much to worry about both for Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan. These are overall numbers, so averaging pretty good there at 38 and 48. But just mind just goes back to that 2017 Champions Trophy final, another left-arm pacer who really did the trick for Pakistan.
Yeah, look, he bowled well on the day. I don't think that the openers, maybe Rohit was, as he is usually, sometimes starts a little bit slow in the first couple of overs. If someone can get it full and to swing in, which is a good ball to any batsman. And on that day, Amir was really good. So I don't think whilst they've had some issues with the left-armers, I don't think there's a big worry as such. I think Mitchell Stark's just bowling well, so they'll have to watch out for that at the start of the innings. I think Shikhar Dhawan is a little bit of a worry with his form. Although his ICC tournament numbers are exceptional, India would want him to get some sort of runs today because he's so important, just as Rohit is at the top of the order, that makes life easier for the rest of the guys to follow if those two are playing well, and a good pitch to get some runs on as well. So that's Shikhar Dhawan getting runs might be a big positive for India if he can get some runs today.
And then forget a right-arm fast bowler or a left-arm fast bowler. If you've got someone like a Mitchell Stark, he's going to get you wickets just purely with the pace that he's got. And we've seen him really get back that pace, that 150 clicks that we used to see him. Mike, I mean, just looking at him, he was not in great form. Then coming into the World Cup, at least now you're seeing him, those toe-crushing Yorkers are back. That speed gun is now showing 150 plus. It's not going to be easy for any team to be playing against him.
Oh, without doubt. And what I think makes him so valuable, much like how valuable Bumrah is to India, is you can use him at any stage of the game. So with the new ball, he's deadly if you can get that late swing happening. If you're desperate for a wicket in the middle overs, you can bring him back in and try and break a partnership there. But he's also brilliant at the death as well. And we saw against the West Indies, he came back, bang, 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 knocks over sort of 3 quick wickets at the end and finishes the game for Australia. So, yeah, when he is in form, confident and bowling well. There's not too many better around the world.
So because you've got Stark at one end and then you've got the other ones like Coulter-Nile doing the job, it's the fifth bowler that probably could be the problem area for Australia. It's going to be shared between a Stoinis and a Maxwell. Is that something that India really needs to capitalize on?
Yeah, I mean, India first needs to play the new ball well. I think there will be something on offer, and Cummins and Stark at the moment are on top of their game. So that they need to negotiate. If there are wickets in hand, I think naturally it will happen for India to put pressure on, say, Stoinis or someone like a Maxwell bowling, or even Zampa for that matter, coming on later. Not losing early wickets will be the key for India. I think it's usually a very good batting wicket once you get in. And if India don't lose too many early wickets, I think can post a decent total. But Stark, Cummins has had some really good time against India recently. We keep talking on Mitchell Stark because of his recent performances and his white ball numbers, but Cummins is just as good.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. We've been talking all this chat about Mitchell Stark, but I'm telling you now, Pat Cummins, he is a superstar, and he's on top of his game at the moment, really confident and a very, very skillful bowler as well. So the Indians wouldn't want to underestimate Paddy Cummins.
Yeah, fair point to make that. Just the series that we had, the 3-2 that Australia won, he was the highest wicket taker in that particular series. If I'm not mistaken, 18 wickets is what he got. What is it that worries the Indian batsman? Is it the hard lengths that he hits, or he's also a tall bloke, so gets the ball to really come, where you're not really sure you want to go forward to him or back? Yeah,
I mean, obviously the extra bounce with that sort of, and coupled with that, the pace that he bowls at, he's so accurate generally. I mean, he's, just a quality bowler. Hits the same. It's one of those venues where Australia traditionally have played well against India. I think it's changed a little bit. I mean, I've played against an Australian team there, or I was part of the team where Australia used to trouble India with a little bit of bounce. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. But these two guys just naturally, with tall guys do get extra bounce, and they might get a little bit on this pitch.
One thing that sets Pat Cummins apart from other fast bowlers around the world is he's actually a very smart fast bowler as well. He'll set a batsman up. He's very skillful in, if to a right-hander, he'll sort of swing a couple away and then just at the right moment, then dart one back in. He'll mix it up with a few short ones and then go for the full one as well. It's not just about trying to get a wicket every ball with Pat Cummins. It's about the setup, and he's very clever and very skillful in the way he goes about it.
Glenn McGrath-like, probably.
Yeah, he's a bit quicker than Glenn McGrath, but you're right. He's smart like Glenn was.
Just looking at now how Australia are going to come out with Indian team batting. Maxwell with the new ball, would you be tempted? Shikhar, we've seen succumb to a few off spinners early on.
No chance. No? I wouldn't.
I hope they do. For India's sake.
Yeah, no, I think
for India's sake.
The Australians will come out hard with the new ball. They'll want to take wickets early, and I think the best chance of picking up wickets is with Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark early on. And that's the way. Well, I think they should go. Whether they throw a bit of a curveball out there and go for a Maxwell or maybe a Zampa, but I doubt it very much. I think they'll want to really go hard with that new ball with the two big quicks.
All right, we're looking forward now to the game between India and Australia, and this is another thing that we're looking at. Shikhar Dhawan, his records in ODIs, and we've seen a bit of a dip, Ajit, now in 2019. A bit of a worry for you?
Yeah, I think generally, any player who doesn't have runs behind him, or any bowler who is not bowling well or doesn't have enough wickets, you're short on confidence. I think his ICC numbers, like I said, are exceptional. I think whether it's Champions Trophy or the previous World Cup that he's played for India, he's got the necessary experience. If he can spend a bit of time and get, just sort of play himself in a little bit, I think he'll be okay. He's got starts at certain times for some reason or and there's no pattern of getting out. So it's just one of those things. At the moment, he can't seem to get going or get a big score. Hopefully today's the day.
All right, plenty to look forward to, India versus Australia. But just a reminder, you could also participate. We've got a contest going and you could join in at the Hotstar live feed. If you're watching, all you need to do is just check out Hotstar Watch and Play, a super cool innovation that lets you invite your friends, predict every ball, chat about the match, all in one place. And if winning the prediction isn't enough, you get to win amazing prizes too. So watch out for that if you're watching the game on Hotstar. Okay, now the World Cup has just begun, so don't just listen to us and just don't discuss that. You could also participate in a contest that we've got. It's called Cricket Picks, where you get to decide or actually pick the team that you think would be winning this encounter.
Put your tipping to the test. Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions and track your progress throughout the tournament. The easiest thing you'll do all day. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
All right, so there you got the predictions that we asked our experts to go with. Ajit Agarkar, Darren Ganga, Shahriar Nafees, Graham Swan have gone with India. Murali Kartik and Brad Hodge, Daniel Vittori and Misbah-ul Haq have picked Australia. The only name that I can't see there is Michael Hussey, who's here in the studio. Go for it.
Well, you know, I'm a patriotic man. Of course, I've got to go for Australia, but with no confidence whatsoever.
Remember, you're sitting in Mumbai at the moment.
I think on paper, India look the more rounded team to me. They look a better team on paper, but cricket's never played on paper. Australia's got a great record in World Cups, so I'll go for Australia, but because my patriotic heart is saying so, but my head is probably leaning towards India. So that, can you sit on the fence more than that?
Yeah, but in our graphic, you have to say you've gone with Australia.
I'll go with Australia. By one run.
Is that your fascination for yellow as well? You tend to like teams wearing yellow. I'm referring to the IPL team.
Yes, of course.
No wonder Kartik was talking about Australia. He's picked Australia.
Yes, he has. He has picked Australia to win this encounter. Maybe he was looking at the recent form that Australia has displayed after that slump that they had in their form. But it all turned around in March when they were playing that ODI in Ranchi, and ever since that, they've been on a winning run. Will that continue versus India at the Oval? It's going to be live action very, very soon. Ajit Agarkar and Michael Hussey, thanks so much for joining us. You are watching ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. We'll see you at the end of the 50 overs.